Okay, beta patch notes, version 0.108.0. For all you beta testers who've been chomping at the bit for a new patch to chew on, here it is. Today's beta patch brings a ton of fixes, balance changes, some UX additions, a big batch of new multiplayer cards, whoa, and new art additions, including some animations to the latest boss, Ironclad. That's kind of sick. I actually have been grinding multiplayer recently, going for like a 20 plus streak with VM, so we will see if this is going to impact anything. If they're like the other multiplayer cards, they're probably broken, so we'll get to that. We've also got some big updates in the modding realm to call out. Modding updates. Thank you to our incredible community of modders and mod players for all of your feedback since we released Steam Workshop support. We got quite a few changes that will be relevant to modders at the bottom of the notes, but first we wanted to specifically call out some major fixes and changes that affect players. Previously, when launching the game with mods enabled for the first time, it appeared as though your progress was wiped. That is because unmodded saves are saved separately from your modded ones as a protective measure, and we defaulted to having the modded saves start entirely from scratch. Now your unmodded saves are automatically copied over to the modded saves, and a pop-up appears to explain the process to new mod users. They are still saved separately though, which means any progress you make when playing with mods enabled will not be reflected after switching to unmodded and vice versa. Additionally, players have been frequently encountering version conflict errors when doing modded multiplayer runs. We've introduced some fixes which should reduce those instances and more detailed error pop-ups when they do occur. Note that we still recommend having the same exact mods enabled as your teammates, particularly if they actually affect gameplay and are not merely cosmetic. We plan for those changes to come to the main branch soon, so non-beta testers can keep an eye out for that. For more info on modding and playing with mods, check out the patch notes from Major Update 2. Now it's time for the rest of today's patch notes. Probably what we care about is right here. Content imbalance. General, end of turn orb passives now trigger before doom. That means that if a player would die to self-doom, example from Neurosurge card, but also has an orb with end of turn passive that would kill the last remaining enemy, they will now win the combat instead of losing it after ending their turn. Enemies buff Torch Head Amalgam, increased damage at Ascension 9, weak tackle damage increase from 14 to 15 to 14 to 16, tackle damage increase from 18 to 19 to 18 to 22. So this is the Queen minion. And I think that these numbers might be a little bit misleading. You might not think that they actually mean that much, but you do need to remember that in this fight, you are permanently vuln. So this number is much bigger than it actually appears. So a small change here, like going from 19 to 22, is actually really significant. This is like 5 damage increase essentially on this move, which means that Queen is going to be a lot harder to stabilize early in the fight. Probably not going to kill you any more than she's actually killing you, but might tax you in the early turns of the fight, which can have a big impact at A10 just because you are fighting 2 bosses, right? And oftentimes Aeon Glass right now is eating all of my pots, and that might change. We don't know, but currently, yeah, Aeon Glass is just eating all your potions, or Test Subject Phase 1 is eating all your potions, and that means Queen gets the scraps. Now maybe you're going to have to think a little bit harder about popping your pot early in the fight to help with that, which could make the other fights harder. Okay, change regen potion. Its healing effect now triggers before doom, preventing the player from dying to self-doom in certain situations. Very cool. So it looks like a couple of doom fixes that are helpful for the player. Here we have a bunch of changes on all the characters, it looks like. Ironclad, nerf Colossus card. Block gain increase from 5 to 8 to 4 to 7. This is not super relevant, I don't think. Very often you are just playing Colossus and not playing other block, and you're just treating it as like a diadem or something. Doesn't seem like it matters too much here. Crimson Mantle card nerfed, block gain decreased from 8 to 10 to 7 to 10. So at upgrade, this is doing the exact same thing it was before. Still an extremely strong card. This amount of passive block a turn is very, very powerful, and often the life loss is a buff to the player. You can proc things like Inferno. So if you really need the block output, you can upgrade it. This was already a really strong upgrade and is just basically more needed now, but still a very, very powerful card. I don't think this is going to change very much. Buffed Hell from Beyond again. Damage increase from 16 to 21 to 18 to 24. That's pretty cool. Again, this card's issue is that it's just unplayable most of the time. If it's playable, it was like already okay inside the early game. It's just not very often that you have the stuff to play it. You kind of need like Burning Pact, really. That's like your main enabler. And there's a few other instances. If you generate it from Stoke or something, or you can stoke it away, then those are like maybe the main use cases. Like obviously Second Wind doesn't work. If you can play it, it can be a thing that you picked for Desperation. I've also done like Hell from Beyond Stampede, and that can be a thing. So we'll see. I don't imagine that I'm picking it any more often. It's just in the very rare situations that I am, I'm going to be a little bit happier. Buff Setup Strike, strength gain increased from 2 to 3 to 3 to 4. Okay, that is very, very powerful. Like extremely, extremely powerful, actually. I was already sort of picking this card in desperate situations, but this means that you're getting a lot more damage when you have enemy vuln. And like, let's say you play setup strike into 2 strike. Your strikes are doing 9. And if you upgrade it, they're doing 10. And so the rounding on this is a really big deal because 9 goes to 13, 10 goes to 15. Damage in this game rounds down. And so this is a really big breakpoint, actually. And Clad often just needs to sort of pick a handful of garbage attacks early game to get through. If you, for some reason, need to pick this in the early floors, you're going to be way less sad about it now. 2 to 3 is a obviously really, really big increase. And I was already kind of picking this sometimes. I wouldn't say it's a great card, but now definitely like a really decent damage common. Silent, reworked Outbreak card. Every 3 times you apply poison, deal 15 damage to all enemies. Change to whenever you apply poison, deal 3 to 4 damage to all enemies. Okay, so this works much more consistently. And I would say this is overall just a really decent AoE option now. Basically, the problem with Outbreak was that often you would play it and it just wouldn't do anything the turn you played it. It would take a really long time. You would essentially have to play like Outbreak into like Bouncing Flask, or you need Outbreak into Fumes on like an AoE card. And now this is immediately doing something. So if you do a Fumes, still like pretty much just as good. Like obviously the actual number, like if you look at this, you're going from 15 to 9. It is like not quite as strong in a single target fight. An AoE fight can be stronger. But yeah, just way easier to actually proc this the turn of, which makes it much more pickable. Against like Frog Parasite, this is a thing you might want. I don't think I very often have poison stuff in my deck in general, but when you do, it's going to feel a lot better that it does work immediately. And say, for example, also the Decimillipedes is something that you really want AoE damage for. This is going to be easier to take in that fight as well. Okay, Buffed Anticipate card. Dexterity increase from 2 to 3 to 2 to 4. This card's just kind of weird in general, and I think overall it's hurt by Aeon Glass existing more than anything. This used to be much, much better. I think it was 3 to 5 on the release patch, and then they nerfed it 2 to 3. I didn't even really like it that much, even when it was quote unquote like good at 3 to 5. I don't think this is going to do very much. I don't really plan on using an upgrade on this for 1 temp decks. But if it comes green, sure. You kind of need this with other decks scaling stuff, I guess, like dodge and roll. I don't really see this doing that much, but yeah, like the niche cards that don't get picked very often, like the Howl from Beyond, I don't mind when they buff it because like when you do get to pick them, it's going to feel a bit better. Right now, I think this is basically just never getting picked. It's hard to get enough value out of it to like be worth a draw. Silent does have a problem where you can't often generate energy. And so something like Anticipate can be a desperation pick if you don't have footwork, don't have any way to scale your block, don't have piercing wails, don't have shackles, whatever. No after image. If you just don't have these things, then Anticipate can be a desperation way to scale to actually have output, because Silent can be kind of limited on 3 energy, much like Spire 1. Buff Flick Flack card, damage increase from 6 to 8 to 7 to 9. It's good that this is getting changed back. Sly got hit in a bunch of indirect nerfs, Acro nerf, as well as the enemies in the game, like the Dorito and the Aeon Glass. This card was basically just never picked. Much more pickable now at 7 to 9 than it was at 6. Again, with Vuln rounding, this is like pretty nice. I mean, it's not really doing much more, but 10 damage is a nice threshold to hit. And oftentimes, like, if you need this card, you just need to pick it. Right now, even if I needed it, I was trying not to. And that's kind of a bad spot for a card to be in. Like, if I'm walking into Frog Parasite and I'm not considering Flick Flack at all, that probably tells you the card is not that great. Now it's maybe more considerable, probably still on the bad end of things, just because the tools surrounding Flick Flack got nerfed. But if you have, like, early prepared, early tools of the trade, sure. Tracking finally nerfed. Weak enemies take double damage from attacks to weak enemies take 50% more damage from attacks. Still incredibly strong. This is essentially equivalent to Ironclad's power now that increases damage to vulnerable enemies. And remember that the upgrade still goes from 2 to 1 energy, so it's much less playable at unupgraded than it is upgraded compared to Ironclad's card that just increases the damage from 25 to 50%. But yeah, this is pretty needed. I think tracking was overall just way, way, way too strong. So really, if you compare it to any cards that look even remotely similar to it, it just blows them out of the water. Okay, Regent. Buff Devastate card, damage increase from 30 to 40 to 35 to 45. Pretty cool. This card is just hard to play. So when you can play it, it's nice. It's pretty much Void Form or Ultra Desperation damage early. It essentially would just kill like the statue if you really needed it to. It would kill Frog Parasite guys, which I guess it still does. And with Voln, it's doing a lot more. Like if you get a Know Thy Place, this can be quite good. But the fact that it costs 4 stars is just making it really difficult to play. Yeah, Crossbow, little bit of a small buff there for this. I don't think this is moving the needle very much, to be honest. But again, one of those niche cards that when you do have it for some reason, then it's going to feel better. Okay, Buff Divine Destiny Relic, star gain increase from 6 to 7. This was your starter upgrade relic, and oftentimes it was just never picked. I would very often say this is like just seen against Shrimp or something, and you can just like Shrimp your Calc Gamble, or Shrimp your Venerate Plus, or Shrimp your Glow, and there was no real reason that you would want to pick this. Funnily enough, this does work with Devastate to use 4 stars and then still be at 3, or use 2 cards that cost 2 stars and still be at 3 and be able to play like your debuffs or something. Maybe you can even do Comet after Falling Star, you know. There's some interactions, and this is an important breakpoint to hit here. Still probably not that insane. If it's really good, you're gonna know if you can like play decisions off of this. Nothing really changed. You could do that at 6 versus 7, and nothing really costs 1 star except for like Cloak of Stars. So pretty fringe case that wasn't gonna just work. I don't think this is again going to really make this more pickable over other stuff. But when you do have to pick it, it's going to make it feel better. And that's what a lot of these changes seem like. They don't seem like they're really trying to like shake up the meta a ton. Nerfed cards card. Minion Sacrifice Token. Block gain decrease from 8 to 11 to 7 to 10. I think I remember in a previous patch when they nerfed this from 9 to 8 that I said they should nerf it to 7, and it looks like they did. So I guess I'm a prophet of some sorts here. This is still extremely powerful. Guards is working with a lot of stuff. It's working with Pillar of Creation, notably, but also just getting rid of statuses in like Aeon Glass, or getting rid of statuses in the Mites fight, or getting rid of statuses in like any fight ever is just really powerful, right? Exhausting down can also be powerful, especially on Regent. You can loop down to any sort of loop payoff, really, whether you have like momentum on, I think I had it on Celestial Might today, or you can do some loop with like Kingly Kick, some loop with Kingly Punch. There's a few things that are just going to be really nice with this. No matter what, even if they nerf this number to be a very small number, it's not going to matter too much. Buffed Residence card. Star cost decreased from 3 to 2. Okay, that's a huge deal. This card is actually playable now. And mostly I would say this is like a tech card into like Queen or Aeon Glass if you're super desperate. The main thing is that you need to be able to scale in these fights to end the fight before they kill you. And against Aeon Glass right now, it feels like there's better ways to do that. This is ultra desperation. If you like absolutely cannot keep up with test subject and you need to rush it down and can't kill phase 2, then Resonance can be doing something. Against Queen, it can let you like neuter the minion a bit while scaling and get strong before going against Queen. So I can definitely see some worlds where this is pickable. 3 to 2 star cost is a huge buff. Stars is the main limiting resource here, not the energy. So that makes this much more pickable. And multiplayer, this is already like tech sometimes, especially in 4-player, but even in 2-player, now it's just much more pickable. And you will see this green in the end game often enough to maybe have it get in. Sometimes I don't think you're like picking it in Act 1 and upgrading it, but it could kill the boss too. If you like running into Lagavulin and you have no scaling, sure, just pick it, you know. Again, one of those things that not really increasing the amount that I pick the card that much, but in the situations where I do, it's going to feel a lot better to have. And I don't mind that kind of change at all. Okay, lots of changes here to multiplayer and Defect as well. We'll get to that. Necrobinder buffed Haunt card. HP loss increased from 6 to 8 to 7 to 9. This card was already pickable right now. I don't really know why they need to do this. I'm going to jump down to Soulstorm here because this card I have been picking a lot recently just to try and make it work, and it's never done anything. Even in decks where I have like Shrimp Dirge and I'm playing like Capture Spirit, it just never scales fast enough. And now they've doubled the output on it. Which will do something. That is a big change. Not just a small change. This is like a huge way that Necro can actually kill Aeon, which makes having souls in the deck actually have payoffs. They're buffing basically all the payoffs for the souls here with Haunt and Soulstorm. There's more, but this is a really nice way to convert souls into actually doing damage, which means like early Capture Spirit, super pickable. Already was, but just makes something that you're already doing bridge into a payoff later more easily. Buffed Reeve card, damage increase from 9 to 11 to 10 to 13. Big damage increase on the upgrade here. Not that you're really going to be doing it super often. I don't see myself picking Reeve. But again, early game, maybe sometimes an overgrowth. That's about it. Otherwise, I just don't want random attacks in my deck. Okay, Defect. Nerf compact card fuel token. No longer draws cards. Upgrade change from increasing card draw to granting 1 additional energy. That is a really big hit. This card will still be picked into Aeon Glass and still do things about that. But the thing about compact, I think honestly, you would rather have this just draw and not give energy at all. Because if you're drawing compact with statuses and you're turning them into stuff, what are you spending energy on afterwards? You don't have a lot of stuff unless you're having iteration in the deck or having some other active draw. Maybe Fiddle can see play with this now. That's pretty rough. Definitely not like early picking this anymore, and will make Defect's Aeon Glass matchup a lot worse. I think Flat Cannon is still premier for that fight. Just hitting everything in all your possible piles of cards. But this is quite weird. I think Compact's strength was really from the draw here and not from the energy gain. And you wanted to draw into real cards, basically, and maybe go infinite with like some turbo thing. I mean, not actually going infinite very often on this character, but you get what I mean? Yeah, huge hit. A lot of people are picking this super speculatively in Act 1 with like nothing in the deck, and I imagine that's probably not happening very often anymore. Still gonna be good against Aeon, just to get rid of Withers, because it basically reads block on it when you do that. But against other fights, I don't really see it doing anything. Like, you're gonna just be playing the energy even if you are floating them around. Like, I don't imagine you're like leaving all 4 or 5, whatever, to draw into unless you have a ton of card draw. Buff to Momentum Strike card, damage from 10 to 13 to 11 to 15. That is a huge buff. The upgrade on this is very, very good now at 4. 3 is kind of like bog standard rate for damage upgrades. Anything more than that's like considered good. And anything more than 4 is considered great most of the time, especially at 1 energy. 1 energy upgrade being 4 damage is very strong. And this is something that reduces to 0 energy that you can loop and play with Hologram and play with your All for One and play with a bunch of other things. Quite a nice card now. I think the 1 damage increase on the base is also nice. This is already sort of pickable sometimes, especially if Defect is no longer doing a lot of stuff like Compact, you know? We need other ways to deal damage early. Okay. Change scrape card. No longer discards cards whose energy costs are temporarily set to 0 by global temporary effects. Example pounces cards. The next skill you play is costs 0 energy effect. Okay, that grammatically didn't make any sense. I know what they mean though. So basically you can play pounce into scrape, and then if you draw 4 skills or whatever, you're gonna hold them all in your hand. I don't think this is having much of an effect. It's not gonna happen all that often. I'm struggling to even think of a lot of examples where this is going to matter. Maybe like void form or something, like cross-class combos. Synthesis, yeah, sure. That's like maybe the most important one, but scrape is still really bad. If you're trying to draw into your deck at all to play powers or whatever, discarding your powers is not what you want to do. This was always Scrape's problem in Spire 1 and still is the problem now. Change Shatter card, now Exhaust. Okay, this card is still ridiculous. Don't get it twisted. Most fights, you play Shatter 1 time, it ends. So this is not really fixing Shatter. It's still broken. It's just not loopable, but usually you only play 1 Shatter in a fight. So I don't really foresee this doing a whole lot, to be honest. I don't think it's really a nerf. I guess that's why they said changed and not a nerf. But yeah, it doesn't make it any less crazy than it is right now, really. Multiplayer. Added new multiplayer Ironclad cards. Okay, we get straight up new cards in each classes now. We have Midnight. Rare attack, cost 12. Deal 99 to 120 damage. Cost 1 less for each card exhausted this combat by anyone. Wait, this is broken. That is like an insane payoff. Basically, this is Gigapack's end. It's very, very easy for people to exhaust cards, even in 2-player. Think about this being Banshee's Cry. It's really easy to just exhaust 6 cards per player. I play Stoke 1 time. I play 1 Second Wind. I play like some random offering into Fiendfire. Like, it doesn't matter, you know? There's like a million things you can do. Necro just plays Souls or whatever. That this just costs 0 like immediately. Pale's Eye, yeah, good shout. Gross. You can also discount this with like Mummy Hand. You can get it off of Crossbow. Just what? That's so much damage. That is ridiculous. 0 energy, deal 120. The bosses die. Attack potion. Yeah, sure. This is ridiculous. Okay, Blaze, uncommon skill, cost 2, give another player 5 to 7 strength. Pretty interesting here. You can't give it to yourself, but paying 2 energy to get 7 strength is pretty decent, especially on something like Silent that normally has limited access to strength and would scale really well with it, with something like Knife Trap or Blade Dance or whatever. Pretty easy to pick this early, and you also have a lot of access to energy on Clad. Again, another big hit off of skill pot. Having these like big hit cards off of things that can make them discounted is pretty nice. I don't see myself picking this up very often, but especially in like 2-player, it could definitely be abusable. It just gives someone all the boss scaling in the world. Notably, this is better than Coordinate because it's permanent strength, not temporary. It just says give them strength, not per turn or only for the turn. Outrage. Uncommon attack, costs 0, deal 9 to 13 damage, add a copy of this card into everyone's discard pile. So it's kind of like anger for everyone. Instead of early game, this is going to be something you can just take and everyone has damage now, which is quite nice. At uncommon, dealing 9 to 13 damage is very, very strong for 0 energy, and Ironclad often wants these sort of like loop attacks to play with Bash or Pommel Strike and convert draw into energy. And especially if you have other characters that have a lot of draw, let's say Necrobinder that has like a Capture Spirit or something, you can just be adding a bunch of pretty good attacks into people's decks, and the upgrade's very important. Not only is it a 4 damage upgrade, but I assume that means the copy that it adds to other people's piles is also going to be upgraded, which is a huge deal. Okay, buffed and slightly rare tank card. Thank God, this card was unpickably bad, like literally a curse. You never wanted to play it. Take double damage from enemies. Allies take half damage from enemies. 2, take 50% additional damage from enemies. Allies take 50% less damage from enemies. Slightly more pickable, especially the more players you have. Still really weird. I don't see myself ever really drafting this. Again, I think that putting pressure on one person in multiplayer is often just going to make that person die. And then your whole team suffers because you're playing one player down. It technically is positive in more than 2 players, but I don't foresee this being all that good. Okay, added new multiplayer silent cards. Blade Symphony, uncommon, skill, cost 1, add 2 to 3 shifts to all players' hands. Really crazy. This is basically Blade Dance, except it gives everyone attacks. And again, like I was mentioning, when other characters have strength or something, that this is really, really strong. But in 4 players, this is essentially reading just 1 energy, do 12 shivs, which is 48 damage. That's really crazy. Really, really crazy. And it's pretty good even if it's just 2-player even. Like 4 shivs is a Blade Dance plus. So nuts, right? Absolutely nuts. And it doesn't exhaust itself, so it looks like you can loop this over and over, and it can be like one of your main damage engines, give someone strength payoff. Like imagine giving this to Clad who just played Dominate. And now I just have 3 0 cost attacks that scale with strength. Gross. Yeah, Regent Arsenal, really, really cool combos. Probably just overtuned though, as are most of the multiplayer cards as predicted. Concoct, uncommon skill, cost 0. Another player's attacks gain 3 to 4 poison this turn. Seems very abusable. It costs 0, especially if someone's spamming a lot of attacks. But this is like a Giga Envenom. If you're attacking like 3 or 4 times, it doesn't even need to be that many, even 2 times, right? 0 energy, apply 6 to 8 poison is really good, okay? I'm not a snakebite believer, but for the people that are, how good do you think applying 8 poison is to an enemy? Because it's pretty good, especially if it costs 0. That's really good. It can be even better. You have 1 more silent, you play a Blade Dance with this, 16 poison. Gross. That is a million damage, like literally hundreds of damage basically from this card alone. And also works well with above mentioned Outbreak earlier. That's kind of gross. If you have like another silent, they have Outbreak or whatever, that's pretty crazy. Yeah, Whirlwind, really disgusting. Okay, Fade, uncommon, skill cost 0, retain. Another player gains 6 to 9 dexterity this turn. This seems like just way better version of the single player card that does this for you. That's a lot of output. It is a bit weird to give dexterity instead of giving damage, because oftentimes when you're playing something like this, you are having a harder time blocking because you're losing 1 draw. And when you're having a hard time blocking, what you want to do is get out of the fight by killing the enemy. So I do think this is like just a better version, but having retain on this makes it so much better. Retain is an insane keyword, which makes it largely free. Like your -1 draw the first time you draw it, and then after that, it's like kind of a panic button for someone where they can play like 2 defends. This can help people block like Dorito or something. There's other ways like Piercing Whale to do it a little bit better than that, but yeah, it seems quite strong, especially in situations where like someone can't scale their deck at all to block. Giving this to Regent or Necro to allow them to like set up powers and be able to like deploy their winning game pieces seems very good. Change flanking card, rarity increase from uncommon to rare. I don't really mind this at all. This card is really strong, so just changing the rarity and seeing it less often, sure. Speedrunners are crying, and now 4-clad meta is definitely the speedrun tech. Added new multiplayer Regent card. Plot, uncommon skill costs 1. Next turn, all players draw 2 to 3 cards. This seems very, very good. There's a Necro card that basically does the same thing with giving a bunch of people souls. That's slightly stronger. That is a rare. But everyone drawing, you can essentially read this as cost 1, draw 12 cards or 8 cards or whatever. Even in doubles, like 2-player, draw 4 for 1 energy is still quite good. Regent, unfortunately, is a little more energy constrained than other characters, so it's going to be harder to find a spot where you can afford to take this without sandbagging too much. But especially with like 3 to 4 players, this is extremely, extremely strong. You're probably able to just sandbag. I think in 2 players, a lot harder to do that. You'd rather have this on like a Necro or someone that has a lot of energy generation like Clad, rather than like on Regent or Silent who struggle to make energy. Constellation, uncommon skill costs 0. Another player draws 1 card, gains energy, and gains 9 to 12 block. Sorry, what? What? In 2-player, that's just completely busted. That is way too much. That's like Giga Adrenaline that blocks, or Big Bang that blocks, that doesn't exhaust, it looks like. So you can just loop this. I can just draw this and play this, and Regent again struggles with energy. So I can just draw this, play it, not spend any energy. The other person gets super ahead and they can help me. That is completely ridiculous. I don't know what they were cooking with that. That is way too strong. Need to make it exhaust at the very least, but it seems way too strong regardless. Okay, add a new multiplayer Necrobinder card. Underworld uncommon skill costs 2. Whenever another player deals attack damage this turn, apply that much doom, exhaust. Pretty cool, like 1-turn Reaper form. Obviously gets better with more players and would be way better with retain. I don't think this upgrade is doing that much, but this essentially just has double damage that turn. It is essentially Necro's version of flanking, which they just moved flanking from an uncommon to rare. This is obviously worse than flanking because it's applied in Doom and it costs more energy. So pretty similar to like flanking pre-nerf, I guess, except obviously this is now in an uncommon slot, which makes it more acceptable for it to just be sort of straight up worse. There can be some funny synergies with it, like Sleight of Flesh or whatever, but it's not as good most of the time probably. Still very strong. Like needing to do a ton of damage to a boss in multiplayer is a really common problem. Obviously much better in 3 to 4 players. I'm mostly caring about 2-player now. That seems like the most fun thing for me to play currently, but if you're playing with 3 to 4 players, it's going to be extremely powerful. Soulbound uncommon power costs 1 innate. Choose an ally. Whenever you create a soul, add a soul to their dropout. Completely disgusting. You can essentially just play support for somebody. In 2-player, this is very, very good if you have like Capture Spirit at all. Imagine giving Clad souls. You just go infinite. You exhaust cards. You get to use your bloodletting energy. You give Regent souls. Like, gross. That's really, really gross. There's other cards that you can play. You obviously don't raw pick this, I think. You want to have this with some other stuff, but you're essentially just like spoon feeding someone a giga acceleration. Like giving them souls is really, really powerful. Cacophony, rare power costs 2. Every 33 cards drawn by all players deals 66 to 99 damage to a random enemy. This is really funny and pretty cool. I assume this counts start of turn draw, which shouldn't be very hard to proc in 4-player. Pretty decent boss damage, I would say. Otherwise, way too expensive to play. In 2-player, not proccing often enough, but maybe Ultra Desperation. It doesn't seem like numbers on it are that crazy compared to like the Clad card now that does 120 for exhausting 12 cards for 0. That seems a lot stronger. Okay, change Legion of Bone card, no longer exhaust. I think this was needed. This card was pretty bad. Especially in 2-player, it wasn't super great. Now maybe you can do some looping stuff with it. maybe you have Dance Macabre and you're playing this, and that's going to be a lot of block and also block for other players. You're kind of playing support. Pretty cool. Added new multiplayer Defect cards. Hibernate. Uncommon skill cost 2. Channel 2 to 3 Frost. This turn your Frost gains grants all allies block. Holy crap. That is disgusting. We have another Glacier. That's just gross. Glacier, guys. Glacier. That's disgusting. And it blocks for everyone. Works with Temp Focus as well. That is really, really, really gross. Any card that just says add a bunch of Frost to your character, this doesn't even need to be multiplayer. You could literally put this in single player and I would draft it. I'm not even kidding. You could literally draft this in single player. It's worse Glacier, but bad Glacier is still really freaking good. I will definitely say that. So yeah, kind of crazy. 1 for all, rare power, cost 1. So we have all for 1 and 1 for all now. Okay, My Hero Academia shout out. Everyone's 0 energy attacks deal 3 to 4 additional damage. Wait, that's very cool. I like these new multiplayer card designs. It's like a lot of support stuff and maybe more cross-class interaction. I think a lot of people were complaining that Defect didn't have a whole lot of that. So that's super fun. This is buffing like Soup Strikes, which is probably the most common thing that you're going to see from this. Also buffing Shivs. This is just like accuracy for your silence. Really cool. Imitation Learning. Rare skill cost 1. Choose another player. The next 2 to 3 times they play a power, you play a copy of it. Defect gets domain? Hello? What are we doing? That's crazy, dude. Defect powers are honestly some of the worst out of all the characters, I think. And you give Defect access to like some of these really broken powers. Good lord, dude. Feel no pain Defect? Hello? Dark Embrace? That's gross. That's really, really gross. Very cool though. Okay, all these are really broken. I'll just say this, all these multiplayer changes are insanely strong, but that is ridiculous. Okay, change ignition card, rarity decrease from rare to uncommon. This is really cool. This card is very strong in 2-player. It basically says play friendship on another person. And I'm kind of down for that, so big fan. Added new multiplayer colorless card, the Ball. Uncommon attack costs 1, deal 10 damage. Increase this card's damage by 15 to 25 this combat and give it to a random ally. So you're just basically passing this around. Like, that's kind of the idea, I think, is it's like a soccer ball that you're just like passing. Pretty cool. I like this quite a lot. That's the increase on damage is very strong. I think the wording on this means that they get the card in their deck permanently, not just into their hand. Otherwise, it would say in their hand, I think. So it doesn't say where it puts it in their deck. I assume it's in their deck like the next combat, right? So it's like meta scaling. Actually, no, it says this combat. Okay, never mind. That would not make any sense then. That I don't know where it goes though. Maybe in their hand? That's insanely strong if it's in their hand because you can just bounce it back and forth even in 2-player. But if you have like 12 energy across 4 players in multiplayer, then it would just like be able to bounce back and forth. I don't think it can go into the hand. That seems way too strong, but I guess we'll have to see. Nerfs enemy block scaling in 2-player multiplayer. Wait, we got nerfs to 2-player. Okay, for those that don't know, me and Opum and VM or whatever, like we've just been playing 2-player because a lot of people have been saying 2-player is harder than single player. And I staunchly believe this to be completely incorrect. We're just going to get like a 20+ streak and then people are going to have a hard time arguing with us. We've gotten a couple of big streaks already, but not quite the 20 yet. Now this is going to be a lot easier. That's a big deal. Nerf Beacon of Hope from 1 to 2. This was pretty needed, especially in multiplayers like 3 to 4. Not necessarily 2, but yeah, I can see myself not picking this inside of like 2-player now very often. It's just way too expensive to put into play, but in multi like 3 to 4 player games, this is still going to be really, really strong. Just way too powerful of a card. It's just often going to mean you eat a lot of damage on turn 1 unless you have like a boot sequence or something. You kind of need relic support, like an anchor, something on turn 1 or some innate card to help fix this. Okay. User interface and experience. General, added a randomized button to the custom run screen, which randomly selects 2 good modifiers and 1 bad one, and randomizes selected character. The run timer is now paused while the pause menu is open during a single player match. Added a selection reticule for potion holders. Created a stats section in the bestiary. Added event combat encounters to the bestiary. Hid moves with duplicate animations for some monsters in the bestiary. Slightly adjusted selection era and bestiary monster list. Players can now see which rooms were affected by Fur Coat Relic in the run history. Relics skipped in the merchant event are now recorded in the run history. This is the question mark merchant is the fake merchant. Roomful of Cheese event now shows the cards that were skipped in the run history. All controller input dead zones have been set to 0.5, meaning joysticks should feel less sensitive and trigger buttons must be pressed in slightly more before the input is received now. Regent. Pale blue dot power now counts down the number of cards that need to be played before it procs next icon. This is very important. This was something that was like just not trackable really. It was very annoying. It's probably just going to track like orbit now, which is much appreciated. Multiplayer. Version mismatch error now contains more information. Art. Added portrait art for Wither status cards. Added Aeon Glass animations. Updated Gremlin Merc animations. If you kill Gremlin Merc before it steals any of your gold, Fat Gremlin now spawns out holding a bag of gold. Funny little Easter egg, I guess. Added epic art for Ablaze, Arise, Darv, Prion, Slumber, Spireborn, the Architect, the Pact. Added orb passive activation visual effects. Added card removal visual effects. Added new card exhaust visual effects. Writing. Big Game Hunter modifiers hover tip now specifies that it makes elites drop rare card rewards instead of just better rewards. Helix Drills. Card wording has been updated to be clear that it only counts energy spent on other cards. Clarified that Silken Tress Relic applies only to the player who chose it in a multiplayer. Updated translations for various languages. Bug fixes. General. Details are now included in the Steam initialization. Error pop-up. Saving is now retired when antivirus or cloud sync briefly blocks the save file. Runtimer no longer starts a run hidden if you have always show runtimer toggle on. Fix crash when returning to the main menu while a card selection prompt is open. Fix broken controller navigation to the mod settings button in the main menu. Fix controller navigation breaking if you open up the deck view while holding a non-targeted card. Fix combat music sometimes continuing on the map and other non-combat screens. Fix epic paginator. I think I said this the wrong way. Paginator. I don't remember. This is like a coding term, right? Last time and someone got mad at me. Arrows becoming unclickable. Whatever. You guys know what I'm trying to say. Fix soft lock when opening the bestiary in the treasure room with a fresh save/reload. Fix run history death quote getting cut off if it was too long. Run history now shows the boss icon for old runs that fought the Doormaker. Fix stats screen showing that you have discovered more monsters than there exist in game. Fix the daily run leaderboard failing to load for some dates. Fix many instances of weird RNG behavior. Shout out again to CKman. Let's go. Fix being able to control or navigate to Bird Pip. Ancients. Fixed elite music playing in Meow Room if you died to an elite your previous run. Weird. Test Guitar's Toy Box Relic no longer flashes once it's used up. Can we just delete the relic from the game though? Okay, sorry. I really don't like this relic though. Enemies. It is no longer possible to get 2 encounters in a row that contain slime monsters. It is no longer possible to get 2 encounters in a row that contain snapping jackfruit monsters. If an attack enchanted with a replay kills the last enemy on its first play, the subsequent plays are now skipped. This fixed an issue where if a card with replay is enchanted with corrupted, the player would lose extra HP even after the first play killed the last enemy. Okay, it's kind of nice here that we get a little bit more variety off these first 2 lines here. Just getting different enemy encounters more frequently is pretty nice and just prevents a lot of runs from feeling like you've seen the same enemies a billion times. And we had that issue in Spire 1, have it a little bit with like the scrolls inside of this game, but I guess they're working on that. Okay, fix a visual issue where if the player uses thorns to kill a monster that spawns more monsters on death, the dead monster's attacks wouldn't visually occur until after the new monsters had spawned. Fix Cubex Construct's intent overlapping with its body if it takes damage while transitioning to its charging animation. Fix Inklet's head getting cut off during Doom animation. Fix Slithering Strangler playing its hurt animation for its thwack move. Fix Wrigglers spawning off screen in 4:3 aspect ratios. Fix Torchhead Amalgam's laser attack visual effects not reaching the player when it was shrunk. Fix Impact sound effects playing for Kinpriest's Soul Beam move in the bestiary. Kaiser Crab no longer covers the monster title in the bestiary. Repeatedly clicking Knowledge Demon Cursive Knowledge move in the bestiary no longer causes animation to stop playing. Added missing tunneler animations to bestiary. Tunneler animations can now be played regardless of burrowed state in the bestiary. Okay. Potions and relics. Fix an issue where Bone Tea Relic could fail to upgrade your hand if you have Toolbox. Fix an issue where if a player auto-plays their entire start of turn hand draw via an effect like Hellraiser, Unseizing Top Relic may not trigger despite their hand being empty. I guess this would also maybe be Vaku, potentially? Fix Planisphere Relic proccing twice in the Battle-Worn Dummy event. Fix Polonus Core Relic counting up past 4 if you end combat after your turn, but before you draw cards. I saw someone in chat the other day talking about how this happened to them, so maybe their F2 did it. Congrats. Lasting Candy no longer procs if the reward set has no card rewards. Unsettling Lamp Relic no longer gets used up if the target's artifact blocks a debuff. Okay, that's actually really big. That's just a straight up buff to the player. This would happen very often to be able to like try and strip So now it looks like you're going to have this saved for an important moment, which notably for Clad, for like Dominate, very big deal. Basically, one extra Tremble or something on your Dominate, one extra Shockwave, whatever it is you're playing. That's a huge, huge deal. White Beast Statue Relic no longer decreases your normal potion odds when it guarantees getting potion rewards to prevent you from never rolling potions again if it gets removed mid-run. Okay, that's actually really interesting. I guess there's only one event inside of Act 3, maybe Act 2 as well, right? That lets you trade your relics for something else. I guess I didn't realize it was doing that, but that's just a buff to the player, basically. Fix several ways you can obtain duplicate relics on the first run. Fix flex potion description appearing twice on the character when applied. Fix the soft lock that can occur when throwing multiple foul potions in quick succession. Events. Fix an issue where Vigor was only applying to the first of Mad Science cards 3 hits when it was created with the violence option. Honestly, I've like never clicked the attack in this event, basically ever. I know one of them is basically mini uppercut, but the other options are just really broken. So yeah, never even had that card, I don't think. Fix death quotes for dying to punch off a mysterious knight encounters. Colorless cards. Fix entropy card being able to transform curses into Ascender's Pain. Ironclad, Hellraiser's card no longer infinitely plays Shining Strike card, but is enchanted with Swift. That's a cool interaction. Kind of sad they got rid of it. I guess you can soft lock though. Silent, Nightmare card can no longer be generated during combat. Thank you. Okay, that's one way of stalling down. That's really sick. I don't want to be stalling infinitely for value and have that be the correct play. It turns Spire into a really, really big slog when you get that sort of thing. So that is extremely good that we cannot do that anymore. Regent, fix Minion Strike card becoming stuck on screen if played too quickly. Fix History Course copying of Shining Strike card going back into your draw pile. Fix Supermassive card not scaling from cards generated by Mad Science card. Necrobinder, fix a crash that could happen when an enemy dies to Doom. VM was having this, so maybe it will fix. I think this was exclusively with the roaches inside of Act 2. We'll see. I'm going to play multiplayer with him after this, and we will find out. Transfigure card can no longer be generated during combat. Okay, so this was, yeah, they're stopping JMax Infinite Gold, basically. Very happy to see this. Thank you. Fix Enfeebling Touch plus Misery combo, causing enemies with artifacts to gain strength next turn. Forbidden Grimoires card's card removal reward will now show up after Battle-Worn Dummy fight if you are successful. Defect, disabled controller navigation to orbs while in another card selection screen. Fix the subroutine power hover tip typo if you have more than 4 subroutines. Pharaoh card no longer puts History Course copy of Helix Drill back into your hand. Fix gold-plated cables relic flashing if an orb's passive is not firing. Gold-plated cables relic now procs if a motion chip relic triggers orbs at the start of your turn. Wait, that's really crazy, actually. Yeah, super, super crazy that it does that now. How often are you going to have these two things together? Not very often. I believe they're both rare relics. But, you know, if you do, congrats. That's really insane. Multiplayer. Fixed even more instances of daily runs diverging based on players' net ID. Fixed divergence caused by discarding a potion while moving to a new map point. Fixed bug where you could set yourself ready for the next 2 acts in advance. Fixed state divergence caused by taking a reward as you were transitioning to another map point. Fixed divergence caused by host changing the ascension as the game is starting. Fixed divergence when player has music box relic and combat ends up making a choice. Fixed divergence when playing cards very fast while killing yourself. Okay, very funny. Fixed Ghost Seed relic adding ethereal to strikes and defense generated by other players during combat. If you open a screen during a treasure room relic fight, the hands now behave correctly. Fixed mouse remaining hidden forever if a game ended while in potion targeting. Event RNG seeds are now consistent across all multiplayer daily runs. Jungle Maze Adventure event no longer appears if a player doesn't have enough HP for the solo option. Performance. Compress various combat background assets. Modding. Unmodded saves are now copied to the modded save directory. Okay, we went over this earlier at the beginning. Added controller support for modding menu. Fixed Steam mods causing reflection helper.mod types to return nothing. Saved property IDs from mods are now properly sorted for multiplayer. Content from mods with effects gameplay set to false are now sorted to end of ID maps. Mods can now register multiple assemblies. Serialized save.num reloads is now consistent across peers. Steam mod now takes precedence over local if the version is greater. Batch the Steam Workshop call for checking branch support, meaning mods should load faster. Began publishing sts2.dll XML documentation. Fixed issues in multiplayer where players with the same mods would get version mismatch. Thanks to OLC of RituLib for helping out with this. Build the serialization cache from model DB instead of via reflection. Sort content by model ID instead of type name. Use more tiebreakers when sorting. Sort epic IDs. And okay, this is a lot of stuff that if you don't know how to code, you're probably not going to care about. Exclude non-gameplay affecting models from, yeah, okay. The correct mod lists are now logged in the non-gameplay mod mismatch warning. Okay, so the biggest thing here is mostly the multiplayer changes. Unfortunately, we did not get Alt Act 2 today. I was kind of hoping we would, but there's a lot of multiplayer content here, lots of new cards, lots of new ways for characters to interact with each other. Overall, I think a lot of the changes for the single player stuff is pretty warranted. I don't think there's really anything too crazy here. They're like going in the right direction. Compact is probably the biggest change you're going to see here that's actually having an impact, or like a big nerf, because that card was very, very crazy. I think Necrobinder getting a few buffs to soul payoffs means that you're going to have an easier time dealing with a lot of the endgame stuff. Other than that, I don't think a whole lot here. Maybe Setup Strike buff is big, and maybe Queen buff. Those are like the biggest things. Queen buff was definitely warranted. This fight was like often way too easy compared to the others, at least. Like, you were much more often dying to the other twos, and Queen was just like kind of a roadblock for you. Other than that, it's the multiplayer content that we really care about. So I think this patch overall, if you're a single player person, maybe not too much happening here, really. Overall, like, just going in good directions. I think there's doing a lot of bug fixing, and maybe we'll get a big content drop soon. Lots of balance changes here, but no new actual content except for multiplayer stuff. So I'm probably going to be testing multiplayer stuff. We'll see if we get that 20 streak. I imagine we will. And then maybe I'll do like a 2-player exclusive thing, or 2-player guide or something like that. I think a lot of people, when I did like my multiplayer tier list, were like, why isn't this focused on 2-player? Which, fair. I didn't realize most people were playing with 2-player. I think the most common is still 4, but 2-player is definitely the most balanced when it comes to multiplayer and presents an actual challenge. Again, still maintaining that it's easier than single player, but I will back that up with results, and we can discuss that later. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully in 2 weeks we'll see some big content drop. Overall, I'm pretty happy with this patch. There's just not that much going on for single player, but yeah, still fine.